Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The duty of a Brahmana is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is pleased with those who are forgiving. Purport. Different personalities become beautiful by possessing different qualities. Chanakya Pandit says that the cuckoo bird, although very black, is beautiful because of its sweet voice. Similarly, a woman becomes beautiful by her chastity and faithfulness to her husband, and an ugly person becomes beautiful when he becomes a learned scholar. In the same way, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras become beautiful by their qualities. Brahmanas are beautiful when they are forgiving, Kshatriyas when they are heroic and never retreat from fighting, Vaishyas when they enrich cultural activities and protect cows, and Shudras when they are faithful in the discharge of duties pleasing to their masters. Thus, everyone becomes beautiful by his special qualities. And the special quality of the Brahmana, as described here, is forgiveness. Om Ajnana Simrandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stabitam Yena Bhujalim Swayam Rupakatamayam Dadati Swapatandikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Varnashram. I usually say there are two types of silence. There's regular silence, and then there's the silence after you've mentioned Varnashram. So, down by the lake, the ducks stop quacking, the squirrels become inanimate on the branches, only the eyes are moving, because it's, for some reason, a little bit of a touchy subject. So we'll try to see if we can work a little with that. Now, it makes sense because Varnashram clearly highlights that things are not equal. People are not the same, they don't have the same duties, and they don't have the same benefits. This is a problem for us because we like equality. We want equality, we like it, we can't get enough of it. Equal rights, equal for women, for men, racial equality, it makes sense because everybody should be happy. So if it's equal, then we should be working nicely. However, it's not so much an opinion as it is a matter of fact that we're not equal. We can see there are different bodies that have different qualities. Some, I'm tall, others are not. Some may be very intelligent, others may not be. Some may be very regulated. I'm not always very regulated. So it is not equal. And this is the problem for us because we're living in a culture that feeds us this illusion that you can do whatever you want, right? For the men, it's just do it. And for the women, it's you're worth it, right? That's the slogans. And then you have so many strange and wonderful variations of these slogans that we are being fed with all the time of just do it and you're worth it. It's about you can do whatever you want. And we see that in society how it's promoted when you go actually against your nature. Someone who has no legs run a marathon. Yay! Which is fine. It's not that we're against people with artificial legs running marathons. It's just that it's indicative of overcoming whatever situation you're in. Again, that's also not necessarily a bad thing. But what's the end result? The end result is you will enjoy. So that's where we have kind of the problem. Now, actually, the bottom line is being the controller and enjoyer, right? That you're in control and you can enjoy, and that's what the good life is made of. And you see it. I was in London, and people are trying to enjoy. They're very faithful to this mantra of, how is it? You can do it, you're the man. You can do it, you're the man. Who's the man? Who's the man? You're the man, you're the man. That's kind of the mantra. Everybody's chanting this mantra in London, up and down Oxford Street. Yes, we're doing it. And especially in the weekends. Then, when you're following 4 regulative principles and chanting Hare Krishna, there's a very strange, exciting energy. It's not actually pleasant. But for those who are taking part in it, it seems like pleasure. It seems like something's going to happen here. Of course, the next morning when we get up for Mangala Arati, you can hear from the streets that maybe it's not always working out so well. But we have to have some kind of goal. We have to have something to have faith in. So when we have this mantra of you can do it, you're worth it, then we have to take shelter of our own activities, of I'm the controller, I'm enjoyer. Now, this is something when we turn to Krishna consciousness, it doesn't matter actually if you're born in it or like me, I came fairly late, because at some point you have to make the decision anyway. Am I going to really take this serious as a process, or is it like a cultural thing? You know, this is where I come from, or I like hanging out in the, but if you want to take it serious, it has to do with you have to change some behavior. You know, you have to actually engage in this process. So naturally, it's a little bit touchy when we say varnashram, because that puts all these limitations on our activities. It seems like, how is that liberating? I'm being boxed in here. Of course, the easy answer is, Prabhupada said it. So that should pretty much take care of it. Especially late in his life, he was very much stressing that this varnashram it's something we need to do. But already early on, we can see in Bhagavad Gita, he's saying it in chapter 2, text 31 in the purport. Prabhupada states, human life begins with varnashram. It begins with varnashram. And Krishna says himself in the 4th chapter that this is an eternal system. I've made this system. It's given by God. So there's not really any question of whether or not we should work with it. It's not a question of should we implement it or not. It is implemented. It's a subtle law of nature, like we have gross laws of nature that are like gravity or temperature. We can't really say, should we implement temperature? It doesn't. Should we implement gravity? I'd like to fly to work. So why do we have this archaic gravity? This is the modern world. This is 2015, Prabhu. Why do we still run around with this gravity? So in the same way, varnashram is laws of nature for the subtle body, which is still material. But it's eternal and it's given by God, so there's nothing we can really do about it. We can choose if we want to work with it or we want to kind of live in illusion from it. This is our choice. So why do we usually not really understand this? It has to do with what in Vedic is known as Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. This is every analysis of reality is built up into these three. Sambandha means relationship. It's just your relationship with the world, your relationship with God. Abhideya means the activity you perform, and then Prayojana is the result you get. Right? So you're in a situation, you do an activity, you get a result. That's everything. And that result then becomes your new situation. So if we say that varnashram is the activity we should be performing, then when we don't understand that, it must be that there's some problem with either sambandha or prayojana, right? Either our understanding of our situation we're in, or the understanding of the goal that we're going towards must be off somehow, since we have this problem. And usually, of course, it has to be with our understanding of ourself and our relationships, that we have this false ego of being the controller and enjoyer. And this false ego is then divided into what is known as upadhis, which are specific attachments. So I think I'm from Denmark, I think I'm a monk, I think I'm tall, I think I'm a man. These are false identities. This is false ego. These are upadis. The whole thing combined is the false ego, but specifically these are called upadis. They can change from person to person. They can change from time to time. 10 years ago I didn't think I was a monk, now I do. But in actuality I'm transcendental spirit soul. This is a situation I'm in. So that's the misunderstanding. And because we think that we have all these things under control, then we think we have the world under control. But we don't. And I'll tell you a story of how you sometimes realize that you're not in control. This is from, I was a child, about 9 years old, in a land far away. I lived with my parents, and we were close to like a play field. They had some football goals, and they had a merry-go-round, and there was a trampoline, right? And me and my friends, we would always jump on the trampoline, and it was kind of dug into the ground, so you could have a running start. And there was this virgin jump on the trampoline was very popular, right? So you had to be the first one to get there, because later you'd have like 3-4 boys bouncing up and down on the trampoline, and it was kind of random what was going on. But that first jump, and if you could hit the corner just by the springs, you could stretch the spring, you could fly into the air. Wonderful. So we're running towards the trampoline, and for some reason I'm behind that day. Usually I'm in front because I'm long, I got long legs, I could run fast, you know. But this time my friend Mikkel, he made a cheating start or something because he was ahead of me. And I didn't really like that, because there was also the whole identity thing. What if he understands that he can actually make it before me? Then the whole social structure kind of is disrupted. So it was a big deal. So I was running, and I was giving it everything I had. And Mikkel, he makes a strategic mistake, I think, because there's a swing set and he runs around it. And I figure if I just run through it, between the swings, I'll make up time and I'll beat him. So I run through it, but what happens is there's one of the swings and the rope is kind of cut in some way, so it's kind of hanging down by the ground. And as I run through it, that rope catches my ankle. I don't notice this, so I keep running. And the rope stretches out, which means that I make a movement kind of like this, into the air. My body is completely stretched out, and all I can see is the blue sky. And there's a moment where time kind of slows down, and I'm thinking to myself, am I flying? Because I was running as fast as I could, and suddenly I leave the ground. I didn't know what was happening, so maybe I was. So as I start my descent back to planet Earth, the rope stretches and starts pulling me backwards, and now I'm thinking, okay, I'm definitely not flying. And I have no idea what's going on. I'm not afraid, because there's no time. I'm just wondering. I wonder what's going on. So I slam into the ground, and I'm pulled backwards. And in Denmark, it's like England, that it's never been long since the last rain. So there's kind of a puddle of muddy water under the swing set. And I'm pulled backwards into that puddle, and this is where it stops. My body's not hurting. It's like kids and drunk people, they can fall and not hurt themselves because they just have no idea what's going on. But my false ego definitely took a hit. And I'm lying there. I still don't know what's going on. I got mud all the way up here, in my mouth, in my eyes, under my shirt. And the guys that I'm with, they're not helping out. They think it's hilarious. So I'm lying there, and Mikkel is bouncing on the trampoline and pointing fingers and everything. And I figure out what's going on, and I untie myself, and I walk home in shame. There was a lot of playing indoors after that, immediately after that. It took a little while before I came out. I like Legos. That was easier to deal with. So this is just one of these These happen every day. This is a more spectacular version, right? But these things happen every day, and then we're reminded, and that creates anxiety. That creates anxiety. Whenever the situation changes, we have to change with it. Suddenly it's not about coming or going to the trampoline. Suddenly it's pretty much survival, And in that way, everything, when we take shelter of these temporary situations, we have to constantly change in order with that, because they're always changing, we have to always change. So that creates this anxiety. So that is why when we hear about Varnashram, we can't change. If we accept it, that means we're fixed. So this is a problem for our mind to accept. So therefore we have to have faith, and in order to have faith, we have to have knowledge. We have to figure out what is actually this Varnashram. Of course, the nice thing about Varnashram is that it actually fits our real identity. That's actually wrong. It fits our subtle body. The state that our subtle body is in, it's dealt with in Varnashram. So that means we don't actually have to change. It's a state that we can keep taking shelter of for the duration of our life. There are changes in ashram, but the varna is just fixed. So we will actually be able to take shelter of it. So we have 8. We have 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. The 4 varnas are occupational duties. There are occupations. It's very easy. It's just, you look out the window and you think, what do I like? Do I like art, or do I like to work with, farming, or do I like to make money, or what is it that you like? And based on that, you can see what is then my occupation. If you like to have a job, you're a Shudra, and it's glorious. That's the problem. We think that Shudra is stinky, smelly, and it's like musical chairs. No one wants to be the Shudra, right? But actually, the Shudra is a glorious person, because he's just doing service, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to just do service. So it's a glorious position. We, most of us, at least I can speak for myself, are, Varna Shankara. We're mixes of mixes. Because in the modern sense, it's always about going against your nature. So if the waitress can be married to the millionaire, we think that's great because love conquers all, but they have nothing in common. She comes home, she's gotten a tip for £20, and she's ecstatic. He just sold up part of his company for 200 million. It's a little bit like, okay, So there's no common ground for communicating. So we want to situate ourselves where we are, not where we wish we were, or where we have some flowery dream about what would be good. And usually it would be as a Shudra, because anyone who has a job is a Shudra, and it's great. You just do your job and you offer it to Krishna, because technically we are Vaishnava. We are higher than that in our actual identity. The Varnas are just dealing with our conditioning. So then if you like to make money, if you're always having more than you can spend, that means you're a Vaishya. It's easy. And all you have to do is give in charity. You have to be generous. And if you just can't stand injustice, and you're always engaged in management and making things, then you're a Kshatriya. And if you like the books, you're an intellectual, you're a Brahmana. It's very simple. This is for the Grihastha, because we have 4 ashrams also. We have the Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa ashrams. The Grihastha is the household ashram, and the 3 other are renunciate ashrams in different flavors, you can say. So basically this is it. If you feel the need to get married, most devotees, non-devotees feel that need at some point, because there's some cooperation, there's some stability there. You go into the Grihastha ashram. If you don't feel that need, you can just go straight from Brahmachari to Sannyas, which is rare, but it's good for society to have some of these. It's good for society to have a Brahmachari ashram, because they can do a lot of service, and they have a very simple life. So they work together. The grihastas can provide the facility, and the brahmacharis can help in serving the community. So it's a cooperation. This is what we always have to remember, that it's always about cooperation. What also sometimes is the misunderstanding is that the brahmanas against the kshatriyas, or what's the best, or the householders against the brahmacharis. Brahmacharis are nonsense. They're just social outcasts who don't know what they want with their life. Or grihastas, they're so lusty. It's not like that. We're cooperating. We're devotees. First and foremost, we're devotees. And then all the other stuff, again, is just situations that we're in. But it's systemized and it's given by Krishna. That's why it works. Because there's a non-difference between what Krishna likes and how reality works, because it's kind of his place. Here in the material world, it's been perverted. It's a reflection of the real, so it's kind of contaminated, but the principles remain. Contamination, that's the details. There's always something going on. That's why forgiveness is mentioned here as a supreme quality. It's also mentioned as the most important of the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava is forgiveness, because something always goes wrong. You don't do any programs without something going wrong. Usually we're late. We're always late in ISKCON. But there are other things, like you mention something, you mean something, but they misunderstand, and so forgiveness is very nice. And this goes, actually, it's mentioned here for the Brahmana, but it goes for everybody, because we're Vaishnavas, we're above that. But Vaishnava doesn't mean, sometimes we hear, no, we just chant Hare Krishna, we don't need this Varnashram. This is not true, because we don't just chant Hare Krishna. We chant Hare Krishna for 2 hours, and then we get up to all sorts of other activities. So for those other activities, the 2 hours of chanting, that's always remember Krishna. For the 22 remaining hours, it's never forget Krishna, right? So that's what we hear. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Always remember Krishna, that's the direct service. Okay, prasadam is also part of that. Very good. Someone said to me, it's very easy to attain nishta when it comes to prasadam. I like that. But then all our other activities, we have to arrange them so they don't draw us away from Krishna. Because that's the tendency with the contaminated, perverted reflection of the real world that we're in. We will be drawn away. So that is why we use Varnashram. And it's all pervading. So, just to give a few examples. Let's say we have 5 levels of consciousness. I often bring this up because it's a very nice point. Anamoy, Pranamoy, Jnanamoy, Vijnanamoy, and Anandamoy. Anamoy is sense gratification. Pranamoy is extended sense gratification. Jnanamoy is Dharma, like the level of intelligence. Vijnana is level of the soul. You realize I'm distinct from matter. I'm spirit soul. And Anandamoy is full Krishna consciousness, where you're not considering yourself but Krishna. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Jai Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Jai Gauranitai ki. So when you're not considering yourself at all, that is the topmost Anandamaya, the full Krishna consciousness, prema bhakti that we are looking for. But that's not, we're lucky if we just get glimpses of that. Usually we're kind of scouring around down on Pranamoy, So at least when we know this, then we can work with it. So we would say the Shudra has a tendency to be engaged in the senses, just the sensual activities. The Vaishya would be engaged in the mind, that means extended sense gratification, because it's about dealing and getting profit. The Kshatriya would be on the dharmic level of intelligence, because there is a concept of right and wrong, absolute right and wrong, not just I think or most people say or everybody knows, but actual reality, right and wrong. The Brahmana would then be on the Vijnana level of distinguishing between soul and matter, actual self-realization. But the devotee then will be on Anandamoy, that you're fully Krishna conscious. So we're always going up and down like an elevator here, right? But at least if we can distinguish, and when we can see, okay, right now I'm actually on this level, then we can work with it. We can take it on into, let's say, knowledge. We have 5 different types of knowledge. Prajaksha, Paroksha, Aparoksha, Adhokshaya, and Aprakrita, which are the same thing. It's just the same thing, just now we're doing it with knowledge. Prajaksha is just through the senses. Then you have above that Paroksha, which is through other senses, which is a little more bona fide because at least now there's some coherence. Then you have through authority. That means bona fide authority, ultimately Vedic authority. It means actual knowledge. And then above that you have meditation on Paramatma, which is actual self-realization. And then above that you have purified senses, which means just Krishna consciousness. Again, you're seeing with Krishna senses. We have Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha. Karma is for the senses. Artha is for the mind. We have, growth and profit. Dharma is for the Kshatriya, for the third level, for the Jnanamoy, because there is right and wrong. Then we have Moksha, liberation, for the Brahmana. And then we have Bhakti on the top for the devotee, right? So we can see how these things, I could keep going, but the point is that these things are present everywhere. When Krishna says they're all pervading, that's what he means. They are all pervading. Everything in existence is in one of these boxes, or in one of these, and it's based on the modes, right? You have, from the bottom, you have ignorance, just a false identification. Then for the Vaishya, you have ignorance mixed with passion. Passion needs to be locked with something because it moves. So it goes towards ignorance or towards goodness. So passion going towards ignorance is Vaishya, because he thinks he will be happy with facility. Stuff will make me happy. This is how modern societies run. This is the highest level of consciousness in modern society. Things will make you happy. Just do it. Buy these shoes. You will be happy. Put on this deodorant. Women will chase you down the street. All these things. Where was I? Now I confused myself. Yes, thank you. Passion leaning towards goodness then would be the Kshatriya, because there is an actual realization of the real reality, which is represented by goodness. And then the Brahmana would be in actual goodness, still with some, traces of the lower modes. And then, of course, the devotee would be in Suddha Sattva, actual beyond the modes, right? So in this way, everything in the world, in existence, functions according to these things. So if we're able to work with Varna Ashram, we're able to get out, because that's the point. The point is not to try and be happy and comfortable right now, right here. It is to try and be happy and comfortable in the long run. And in the long run, that means eternally, because we're eternal. So a day of Brahma, that's a moment in the spiritual sense. It doesn't matter. We hear about the heavenly planets, that it's a very, very long time, but for those who are there, it's still just 100 years. An ant, very, very short time, but for the ant, it's still 100 years. Any life will have this mental duration of 100 years. It will feel like 100 years when you're there. So as long as you're in some kind of material consciousness, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't make a difference. So we want to get out, right? So that's why we need to work with it, and so there are different. Here it's very nicely explained that it's actually a good thing, that a woman becomes beautiful by her chastity and faithfulness to her husband, and an ugly person becomes beautiful when he becomes a learned scholar. In the same way, Brahmanas, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudras become beautiful by their qualities. So that's glorious. We don't have to look at the negative. We just add the positive. Like being humble. How often do we hear that someone is humble, and that meant as a where's the word? The word escapes me. Compliment. We hear it all the time. Devotees all the time say it. That's one of the most used phrases when praising other devotees. Is so humble. So that's the sutra. If we look at the spiritual world, here's the kicker. If we look at the spiritual world, this is a reflection. That means it's upside down. So who's the highest rasa? It's ladies. It's the gopis. Just below that, we have Mother Yashoda, right? And then we get into the more detached person. Here, detached is good, Brahmana is good, because we have the wrong attachments. But there, attachment is not good, because we want to be attached to Krishna. We just want to be not attached to the material. So it actually flips over. So Shudra is actually a very good condition to be in, if you situate yourself properly. Similarly, you can say with ladies that this varna it's designed according to activity, so it's more designed according to men. For ladies, it's a little more. There's a layer more on it because ladies are more identifying with the situation, their surroundings. So that means, in one sense, we say that ladies are like Shudra because they're dependent. But in another sense, we can say they're like Brahmana because they have this tendency to make their private and professional life the same. That's the mark of a Brahmana, is that his activities and his ashram and his varna is the same. Like for a Kshatriya, he goes to work, lots of passion, and then he comes home. Vaishya goes out, business, cheating a little bit, not too much, then he comes home. Shudra, banging on some metal, and then he comes home, right? That's why men, they usually have this wallet with the picture of the family, because when it gets too ridiculously lousy, he can take out this picture. Okay, this is why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for you guys. And then into the pocket again, right? And then keep pushing for another couple of hours. Ladies are not like that. They arrange their situation so they're comfortable all the time. It's a Brahminical quality, because the feminine energy is coming from the mind. Men are coming from intelligence. It's a good thing, it's a bad thing. It's not that one is better than the other. It's a good thing because they can move. They can work with whatever comes their way. But it's a bad thing because new stuff keeps coming within their way, you know. So it's for the man. That's why men are supposed to be in control here, is because we can detach. So if the woman attaches herself to the man, she can be detached through him. It's just a practical thing. It just works better that way. But as soon as you go into the spiritual or the religious, the woman is in a stronger position because she gets attached. The man, he'll do it, he'll not do it, you know. But the woman will get attached. So if it's bad, it's bad. But if it's good, it's good. It's good to be attached to something good. And in fact, we're tatasta, means we're flickering. That means we're attached to either spiritual or material. It doesn't mean it's not actually a real position to be detached. So in that sense, we can see that we work together and to make all of this work. And in that sense, go back to Godhead. So we have to distinguish, final point, between principle and detail. Principle is always remember Krishna. Detail is never forget Krishna. So as long as we can, if we really could just be chanting, brilliant, no need for Varnashram. But the Varnashram is the support for that. It means we will not be so disturbed that we can't really chant or we can't perform our duties. It just situates us in a stable environment that takes care of our anarthas so that we can perform our service better. And that's where we get the real taste. So if we noticed, we've done Sambandha, Prayojana, Abhideya. Like we started out with what is the relationship here, what is our situation, and how do we react to that. Then we went to Prayojana. What's the goal? The goal is to get out. And then we went into Abhideya. How does it actually mechanically work? It's the same that Bhagavad Gita does. It starts with 6 chapters of Sambandha, then 6 chapters of Prayojana, describing Krishna, describing the spiritual world, and then comes all the Gyan with all the mechanical modes and stuff like that, because we're dealing with the mind. Our reluctance to take up Varnashram is because our mind is disturbed by changes. It gets uncomfortable with it. So that's why we have to deal first with the situation. Then we have to give the mind a goal. This is where you're going. Don't worry, you'll be fine. It's going to be great. And then when the mind is, okay, then we can get into the specifics of how we're going to get there. If we just start with the how we're going to get there, the mind gets, no, I don't know where I'm going. I'm not going. Forget it. So that's how we learn about Varnashram. We do it according to the mind because it's always the mind that freaks out. The intelligence doesn't freak out because it's just mechanical. It makes sense, logically it makes sense. But the mind has to be convinced before it will allow us to, the mind is what contacts the active senses. That's what makes us act. So we have to get the mind on our side. So that's why we deal with it like that.